Nurses stood by with IV bottles as ambulance after ambulance arrived, carrying survivors clearly still in shock. Even the city's emergency medical workers themselves among the victims, firefighters and police officers. One couple answered the call for blood donations.
I saw the second tower come down. I saw more than I ever wanted to see in one day.
And it was enough to bring you down here to help. What do you hope to do here?
There's nothing else we can do, but give blood is something we can do, and I hope everybody who can do that will do that.
All right, Jim Watkins is joined now by Kaidi Tong. Once again here we want to welcome the other Tribune stations across the country now joining our coverage of this terrible event today. Let's sum up very quickly for those people across the country and those of you in New York who might be just joining us what happened. What you're seeing there is evidence of the first airplane which crashed into the World Trade Center, Tower number 2 today. Keep watching, and what you'll see happened about 25 minutes later, around 9:15, a second plane coming up, slamming into tower number 1. Debris, fire, chaos on the streets below. A half hour later to 40 minutes later, both of the World Trade Center towers were in rubble. They have been destroyed. The World Trade Center, the ultimate landmark of Lower Manhattan and of New York City and of America's financial might, has been leveled because of some remarkably coordinated, apparently terrorist attacks. 4 planes hijacked, 2 of them slammed into the World Trade Center, another one crashed north of Pittsburgh, another one hit the Pentagon.
We're going to go back out to the street now and to Lolita Lopez, who's standing by at the 59th Street Bridge. Lolita.
All right, here at the 59th Street Bridge, people are still trying to get across, making their way into Queens. Take a look over my left shoulder. You will see as the people, dozens, hundreds in fact, are moving across, trying to make their ways home to their loved ones. It's part of an evacuation of sorts, people trying to leave their work, trying to get home since this morning's incident. Now, places like this have been packed. All of these transportation hubs, including the Midtown Tunnel, another way to get across into Queens, only if your cars are full and packed with people. But also another way of getting somewhere, either uptown or at least around the city, is through Grand Central using Metro North. There we found many people, some survivors of the incident this morning, who had trekked their way from downtown, from the World Trade Center area, trying to get to Grand Central and then making it home. Here are their responses.
I was in World Trade 2. I work for Verizon. 12th floor, we walked down, and it was, I don't want to talk about it. It's pretty bad.
Where are you trying to go?
I wanted to get to my daughter, who was at Goldman Sachs, and I'm with this group from Goldman Sachs, and we all walked from the World Trade, and we're headed up to, we're trying to get home.
It lasted a couple of minutes, but it felt like an eternity. I mean, it was all in your throat, it was everywhere.
So you couldn't breathe? It was...
No, you couldn't breathe, you couldn't see.
All right, so back here on the 59th Street Bridge, as we said, people trying to get across. It's one of the only ways people can get back into Queens. Take you right over again. Cars on one side are being able to go through that as people are walking on the other side trying to get home. It's about the same way it's going to be through the rest of the evening as people head out of Manhattan and back into home, and until subways are reopened here in Manhattan. We're live at the 59th Street Bridge. I'm Lolita Lopez. Back to you guys in the studio.
Thank you, Lolita. We're going to give you an update on the subway and schedules and what's going on with the bridges and the tunnels in just a moment. We want to get the up to the minute information on that.
Some subways are running again, apparently.
And one of the reasons you may notice that we're not really talking back to our reporters the way we normally would and getting getting their rundown on what's going on is because our communications with most of them have been knocked out by the fact that their communication devices are on the World Trade Center.
Numerous antennas on the World Trade Center. In fact, all the TV stations here in New York but one had personnel full-time there at the top of the World Trade Center. And of course, one of our concerns here in the station, as it is at all the other stations, is the status of those people up there right now. But just like everybody else who's wondering what happened, we are just going to have to wait and see. Do we have Brett Schundler on the line?
I think we're going to go to Larry Hoff right now.
Okay, take it away.
Another one of our reporters on the street. Larry, what's going on?
Well, the flow continues. The mass of people still coming out of the financial districts, but the plume of smoke has died down considerably from earlier. You can see the sun still trying to peek through there. Some rescue workers making their way out of there, but people are still working seriously down where the trade towers once stood. Can I help you?
You want some great video from on top of what's left?
Now, who are you with?
I'm with Hofstra University.
No. I thought you were one of the... You look like you got a fire...
Excellent video.
We're not buying that right now. Everybody's got a lot of video. I thought he was a rescue worker. Sorry about that. We're live right now. We're fine. So let me just go on and give you kind of a status report. Again, we have had a continual flow of people coming out of this area all day long trying to make their way. No public transportation other than some buses starting to line up and they're heading over to Brooklyn. The crowd's going over the Brooklyn Bridge has receded dramatically there too. And you can also see that the smoke and ash has cleared up through the alleyways of the financial district. We're looking down Center Street right now. So, it is I guess you call it just the grind now. The work going on over there. We heard from earlier eyewitnesses that some fires are still burning down there. And I imagine you guys are more updated on it than we are around here. We just get those firsthand accounts of people coming out here that they're working at ground zero right now, but getting most of the people that are finishing up their day and sending them on home. And they've been kind of sending them on home in waves today. So it is kind of a matter of now people getting on out of here. We're not really seeing those soot-covered victims like we did earlier today. I think those people, the very traumatized ones, have made their way out of the area. And these are the people that are coming out of buildings way on the outskirts of what occurred today. So I'll send it on back to you all right now.
So much. We actually have on the phone right now former Jersey City Mayor Brett Schindler, who happens to be in Israel. He is the New Jersey's Republican candidate for governor, as you might recall, who went into Israel and to Jerusalem to look at the pizzeria where a Palestinian suicide bomber killed 15 Israelis just last month. He is on the phone with us right now. Can you hear me all right, Mr. Schindler?
Yes, I can.
Tell me what the situation is right there. When did you hear about this? What were you doing?
Well, we were in a bus actually headed out to the Gaza Strip area. The area, kibbutz that we visited earlier today actually, has been suffering from mortar fire in some of these evenings and is again actually tonight. The reason we are here is to be in solidarity with Israel as it's been suffering these attacks and to support it. But it's just incredible to be over here and then to be seeing this happening in New York. I think most of us are just shocked.
Well, Mr. Schindler, of course, the World Trade Center, in some respects, forms the front yard of Jersey City. The most outstanding views of Lower Manhattan to be had from New Jersey come from the city of which you were mayor until just a couple of months ago. What were your thoughts when you heard this unbelievable news?
We just can't believe it. I mean, I just cannot believe it. I don't think anybody can. When the attack on the World Trade Center happened in '93, we sent our emergency personnel over there, and I hope that all of New Jersey's municipalities, I'm sure their personnel will be needed, their police and fire assistants, even public works assistants, to ultimately help clear out the debris. And I hope people in New Jersey will also give blood, because I'm sure that will be needed in area hospitals. Anything that our municipalities can do, as well as our state, we should be willing to do, and to help those in New York. So many people hurt, so much destruction.
Mr. Schindler, could you describe for us where you are right now, what time it is there, and what the reaction has been of the people who are watching this with you?
Well, I'm at the King David Hotel right now. It's about 11:15 in the evening, and people are stunned. It's something people just can't believe, but it also, I think, makes us all feel that the whole world is a much smaller place right now. Israel has, been suffering attacks, as you know, but now I think you feel that the entire world feels like it's under attack. And I think there's a sense that what the United States and other nations must do is band together, not only get the individuals responsible here, but to root out the support system for terrorism. Because at the end of the day, the individuals were just soldiers. We have to go after the general and the support system that has allowed this to happen.
Are you noticing any specific security steps being taken in Israel? Of course, the events that have taken here and what's been going on in Israel so inextricably tied.
Well, Israel has been under some pretty strict security for some time, and I think one thing that is important is to know is that even though there have been terrorist acts here, and even though there has been shelling along the border and sniper fire, the reality is that Israel is a if you're in the body of Israel, it's very safe. I think one thing that American Jews and others who would like to support Israel can do is they can come here. They shouldn't be afraid. They can come here and by being here show their solidarity for Israel. But I do believe that right now all of us are in the same boat with regard to the need to fight back and root out this terrorist threat to all of the world. It's not obviously just the United States and Israel. You saw in all throughout Europe concerns where they had to close down their skies, and we just can't allow the world to be held hostage in this way.
You are the Republican candidate for governor in New Jersey, and although it may seem far-fetched, can you look at the campaign to be the chief executive of New Jersey and see what has happened here today as being an issue, being something important that will now have to become a part of this campaign?
Well, I think I haven't even had enough time to think about that. It's almost right now. It's almost more just of a sister city situation. Again, New York is our next door neighbor, and it's unfathomable to me to imagine this happening. My heart goes out to every family in New Jersey, New York, and Connecticut, all of those who have lost their lives, and all those who, it'll be a long time, I think, before you see any kind of return to normality here.
Mr. Schindler, you can hear the emotion and the despair in your voice, and I just wanted to say, are you planning to come back to the States now? Earlier, you changing your plans, or what are you planning to do now?
Well, we were planning to return tomorrow already, and as I understand it, there will be no flights in until tomorrow midday. So I'll be trying to get back as soon as I can.
It will be a different world you're coming back to, Mr. Schindler.
It is a different world. It's a different world for all of us, not just myself, anybody else who's a candidate. It's a different world for all of us now.
We thank you for joining us from Israel, former Jersey City Mayor, current GOP gubernatorial candidate in New Jersey, Brett Schindler. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jim, maybe we should right now update some of the subway services so people are, it's changing even as we speak. At this time, as far as we know, this is accurate, most subway service has resumed in New York City. Service has resumed on all the letter lines, A, B, C, D, E, F, J, M, L, and number 5 and 7 lines. Those are the first number lines that have been reestablished. However, IRT service on the 1, 2, 3, 4, and 9 lines still out because of power problems. The Long Island Railroad has limited service right now at Penn Station to Long Island to get people out of New York City. And Metro North says it has limited service right now, leaving Grand Central Station to the northern suburbs. No fares are being collected on these suburban railroads. And for more information about roads and what's happening specifically in New Jersey right now, we're going to go to Vanessa Tyler at the Jersey Bureau. Vanessa.
Well, when those towers burned and crumbled in Manhattan, it was felt nationwide and certainly across the Hudson here in New Jersey. New Jersey is also in a state of emergency, as it was just announced by the acting governor, Don DeFrancesco. Now, we spent the morning gathering reaction on this side of the river, people stunned, looking to the sky at the billowing smoke where there once stood 2 towers. Manhattan locked down. All along the New Jersey Turnpike, cars stopped, people stared.
I can't get back into Manhattan because they said the bridge is closed and the tunnel.
If you are in New Jersey, you're in. No way into the city. Our region is under siege and police are on full alert. Newark International Airport grounded, everything canceled, nothing moving in or out. Reports are one of the hijacked planes that crashed elsewhere in the country may have been from here. To avoid any more stolen planes and flying death, nothing is airborne.
They shut it down just as we were getting ready to board.
I'm trying to get through to England to let my family know that we're all right.
People wandering, not knowing where to go, what to do.
Basically, the airlines are hooking them up with local hotels around here, and thus we're basically recommending them to the hotels around here if they have no place else to go. And they're booked up. I don't know what we're going to do.
People in their offices in New Jersey are standing around radios, listening to the war being waged on their world.
This is an absolute tragedy. It's just boggling. I mean, it's absolutely boggling that such a thing could happen here.
Now, Jim Cuddy, that last gentleman, like many people here in New Jersey, has friends who used to work there in the Twin Towers. Now, he talked with his friend after the first plane went into the tower, but certainly not after the second. So he has no idea the status of his friends, like many people in our region. In many spots in New Jersey, there is a clear shot of the Twin Towers and the Manhattan skyline, a view that certainly has changed dramatically after this morning. We're reporting live from the New Jersey Bureau. Vanessa Tyler, WB11 News at 10. Back to you guys.
Okay. Vanessa, thank you. I'm sure you and I and everybody out there right now sitting there feeling helpless and wondering what in the world we can do.
What we can do, and not only that, but what really is the result of all this destruction and carnage. The thing that I think everybody is trying to find out the most right now is who is hurt, who has lost their lives,
the rescue effort, and try to save as many lives
what
as
types
possible.
of casualties we're talking about. We have brought you reports from Bellevue Hospital. We brought you reports from St. Vincent's Hospital as well, where in both places, I believe in excess of 100 people, many of them critically injured, are being brought in for whatever kinds of life-saving procedures they need. Other hospitals all around the area also taking some of these ambulances, including the Nassau County Medical Center, and that is where our Joe Chaffee, who is a resident of Long Island, is standing by on the phone. Joe, are they bringing people there?
Jim, they're waiting for the arrival of 8 burn victims that have been brought by ferry to Glen Cove, and then are being transported by ambulance from the Glen Cove ferry to the Nassau University Medical Center. The burn unit here is equipped to handle these types of situations, but security here is extremely tight. There's a bomb squad, the Nassau County operations that handles bombs and other security units of this matter here. It's very odd to come into a situation. You're coming into a hospital where you see a policeman standing there with a machine gun, but the security, understandably, very tight. One of the things, a lot of people have come to Nassau University Medical Center to give blood, but the response for blood giving has been so enormous that they are now actually turning people away. The blood center here is full to capacity, at least for now, so they are not taking any more people with respect to blood donors. We thought a little while ago, because we did hear the turns of the sirens, that perhaps some of the burn victims were arriving. However, that was not the case. So we continue to wait here. We have an unconfirmed report that there may be a train that is going to be coming in on the LIRR tracks, coming in with burn victims later on from the World Trade Center area. Again, this is unconfirmed, but we're trying to get confirmation on that. And if we get any more information on that specific, we'll pass it along.
Today, Mayor Giuliani was praising St. Vincent's Hospital. He said even before the first victim showed up there, and they were overwhelmed, the doctors and the nurses were on the sidewalk. They were waiting for them. They were at the height of alertness and readiness. What is the situation like in terms of the hospital staff there? Can Joe hear me?
Did we lose Joe?
I'm sorry. I think maybe we lost Joe.
Yeah, we did.
We did. Okay, we'll try to get him later. We're having problems.
Once again, to recap what he was doing, and this is interesting, if for no other reason than it shows the degree to which the impact is being felt. We're leaving New York City here. We're going out to the Nassau University Medical Center, where they have an outstanding burn unit, and apparently some of the people who were the worst burned, of which there were many, from what we hear, are being taken by ferry to Glen Cove. And then brought by ambulance to the hospital, and perhaps, and this is something that really brings a wartime image to mind: the notion of a train full of injured having to be used to simply get the people who are injured to places where they can get care.
And the ambulances, apparently, there's so many of them being used that they were having private cars pick up the injured and take them to the hospital as well. We're going to go now to Bellevue Hospital and get an update on what's happening there.
Glenn Thompson. Glenn?
Correct? Barely. Now you hear it?
All right, Glenn is getting wired up there with our chief photographer, Tom Cook. Obviously, and I'm sure you folks fully understand that a lot of times it's not going to be the prettiest thing as we go around from site to site right here, but I know you don't have a problem with that. So we're going to go back to Glenn in just a moment as soon as we get him all wired and ready to go. Let's mention one more time, Kaidi, because I think it's important to a lot of people. I live up on the Upper West Side. My wife told me just a little while ago on the phone that walking up Central Park West, streams and streams and streams of people trying to get back to the Bronx and to Harlem and to Washington Heights,
and to get out of Manhattan.
Upper Manhattan and beyond, literally going on foot. They might have a little bit better situation right now because we do have some subway lines working again. The A, B, C, D, E, F, J, M, L lines, as well as the number 5 and 7 lines. Others are still down, but there is some limited subway service back in action right now.
What I'm looking for right now, which I have just a pile of papers here, are the numbers for the airlines. Okay, we're going to do that later. First now, Glenn is ready for us, and let's go to Glenn Thompson, who's standing by at Bellevue. Glenn.
Okay, well, Katie, Bellevue Hospital remains in emergency status right now. Now, all of the staff here has been called in to work tonight. Doctors and nurses are planning on sleeping here tonight. Cots have been set up in the hospital and meals are prepared. The latest numbers we have, 140 victims total brought here. 2 of them are DOA. Hundreds of people coming here this afternoon to give blood. Are we hearing that sound?
Go.
We apologize. Apparently, again, we're having some audio problems with that tape. Now, the hospital has been asking people to come down here to give blood, but apparently at this point, there are so many people responding to this, they're saying maybe they should hold off to tomorrow or even later in the week. It looks like at this point, the need isn't as great as it was earlier. We're live at Bellevue. I'm Glenn Thompson. Let's go back to you guys in the studio.
To hear is clearly people are trying to respond, trying to do something to feel useful, to be helpful. There are some things you can do to help. If you live in that area, don't use your water unless it's absolutely necessary. The firefighters are down there. They need all the water pressure they can get. And
we're going to get the airline flight numbers
now
of the planes that were affected by this today. The 4 planes that were hijacked. Are we going to put those up on the screen so we can see it? All right, well, let me just read them off to you. There we go. We're going to put up the hotlines first in case there are people that need information about the people on board these planes. American Airlines, 1-800-245-0999. There were 2 United flights also hijacked and crashed today. 1-800-932-8555 is the number for United Airlines.
Okay, let's go now to Larry Hoff. Larry, what's going on at City Hall?
Well, you guys, honestly, everybody comes up and asks about city briefings and things like that. We really don't see that activity here. We see all the people coming out from the financial district. What a difference, you know, from earlier today. Obviously, the smoke and dust has died down dramatically. We still have that billowing plume coming out of the trade towers, where they once stood, and blocking out the sun here, but it has quieted down considerably, and it has remained really quite calm, if we might even call it numb, all day long here. The people walking on through. This is turning more into the curiosity time. A lot of people with the cameras coming down here, but under strict control. Right around here, yeah, you can wander around, you know, in the dust and the ash, but you get down on Center and Broadway and they'll cut you off immediately. You know, we've seen the National Guard in here, all your fire and police down there, the rescue efforts going in here. We don't see ambulances coming out. We've seen them coming in throughout the early part of the day, but we have not seen them come back out. We have seen a number like steel workers and firefighters and such going in there to do some of the cleanup crew, but we hear, and you probably know better, that there's still a fire burning around that immediate ground zero area, so they're not really going in there with that cleanup effort as it stands right now. Buses are starting to gather. Swing on over here. The people earlier paraded across the Brooklyn Bridge, and it was a giant exodus into Brooklyn. Now the mass transit is coming into play here, so people, instead of having to hike all the way up the island, now have the option of going to Brooklyn with mass transit. We're hearing, you guys know this, about the trains are starting to run. We hear them rumbling underneath us now. So I'll send it back. I really don't have the stories that I had earlier today because I think this is a different group of people, you know, coming out from the area, not as traumatized and not experiencing the same things as the ones we heard earlier, like Lincoln and some of the others that were right there when it happened. So I'll send it back to you.
Okay, Larry. Well, one of the things, of course, that a storyline that does affect almost everybody is simply how we're going to get around Manhattan, how life is sort of going to go on in the hour-by-hour way that we live our lives. Our reporter Jill Conway joins us now. She's been out there in the field seeing some of what's happening. Tell us what you found.
Well, actually, we were coming into the city. I live out in Long Island. We're trying to get in. We left maybe around, I don't know, 12:30. It took us about 3 hours, I would say, to get in. Now, just to give you an idea, the LIE shut down. Northern states shut down, all heading westbound. There were checkpoints at every ramp. You had to show ID, you had to tell them something. I'm with the press, I got to get in there. They said, hey, you can't get in, this is shut down, I don't know how you're going to do it. We had to drive, in every type, down every street, every type of location. It was unbelievable trying to get in here.
What's happening at the Midtown Tunnel?
We couldn't get in there. We were turned away. We had to try to go to the Queensboro Bridge. We eventually got there. We had to get out of the car and walk, though. So we had to walk across the Queensboro Bridge. It took a while.
So were there abandoned cars? People just leaving their cars and then walking, or where were they leaving the cars?
There was many cars just pulled over.
There's the Queensboro, there's a look at the Queensboro Bridge now.
Yeah, so what you can see is those people, obviously, I can't tell which direction that is, but
we're looking towards
Queens.
Looking
towards Queens. So at one point there were thousands of people crossing that bridge heading into Queens from Manhattan. We were the only ones heading into Manhattan. It was kind of a surreal experience, as we were just talking about it, kind of looking over. You can see where the smoke was and where the Twin Towers used to be, and it is really an eerie feeling.
And you could see all the people on the side walking, so many pedestrians now walking across the bridge.
And that's what we were doing, and it was nearly impossible to get into the city.
Well, I think one of the important things that we can take away from your report here is 4 people living in Long Island, Nassau County, who may be thinking that let's lay low for a few hours and then try to head into the city if we have business there. I think just don't.
I wouldn't even risk it. No.
When you say there were checkpoints, what was happening exactly at the checkpoints?
Okay. Well, when we started, we tried to get on the LIE, and it was just shut down. Police officers were there, their cars, sirens, everything going. Not sirens, but their lights were going. We tried to get through. They either said no, you can't go through this way. Emergency vehicles only. So I know. My husband works out on Long Island. A lot of the police officers were being called in from there to come into the city. I know a lot of firefighters, hundreds, were being told to come into the city to help out.
I think one other thing we should mention, Katie, this is another report that comes from my wife up on the Upper West Side. Of course, we're all getting little tidbits of information from our loved ones that were, as you mentioned, talking to your husband a while ago. She went to the grocery store in our neighborhood, 94th and Columbus, and found virtual panic buying underway. Concerns, people were shouting outside, they're going to get the reservoir next, they're going to get the reservoir next, and they were buying every bit of bottled water inside the stores. So we haven't heard much about that today, but apparently just among people who were many miles away from ground zero, taking this very hard.
And this is exactly what Mayor Giuliani and Governor Pataki are trying to avoid. They've been preaching calm.
Right.
Let's not let this affect the way we live, and let us not be afraid. Let us move forward to it. But of course, you can certainly understand the reason people would be panicked.
Right. This
after
is.
Seeing the
we've been using the expression
right
off
now.
the charts all day long, and there's really people have no background for this. We don't have anything to compare it to.
Did you talk to some of the people as you were coming across when you started walking? Were you talking to some of the people you were walking with, and what was their demeanor?
Well, actually, they did seem quite calm, quite relaxed. They're just coming from Manhattan. It was kind of odd because we're heading into Manhattan. They're all coming out, trying in any way to get over the bridges and the tunnels. And of course, most of those arteries are closed. So I don't think many people know what to do. As we had said, we're talking to our brothers and sisters and whatnot. My sister works in the city, and she said, I don't know how I'm going to get home.
And we're thinking about people who are able-bodied like you.
Sure.
What about the elderly and small children who
even
now have
women,
no way
pregnant
of getting
women,
home?
right?
Exactly.
And they were all walking across the bridge. And that's, I don't know how the distance, but it's a good mile, 2 miles, and
a lot of people are going to be walking today, a lot more than
there
they
again,
have before.
we see this shot over and over, and it just does not fail to boggle the mind.
I don't think it ever will.
And I don't think this image will ever be erased from our minds.
As long as we're talking about transportation issues, we do want to mention that the Holland and Lincoln tunnels remain closed in both directions at this hour. However, the George Washington Bridge's upper level is open out of New York. Staten Island bridges are open into New Jersey. None of the crossings back into New York are open, as we've been talking about at this hour, unless you care to go by foot.
And Jill, if I could just interject at this point, we want to talk to some of the parents out there who may be concerned about their kids. Many of the schools will be closed tomorrow. The New York Archdiocese says all its schools are being closed tomorrow. Spokesman Joseph Zwilling says the schools outside of Manhattan, the Bronx, and Staten Island will, however, reopen on Thursday. I guess you should call, if you can get through, your individual schools and see what the situation is. But I can assure you that my son, who goes to school in that area, is not going to go to school tomorrow.
In fact, your son's school is right over there on the right side.
Yes,
of
it
that
is.
picture,
And believe me,
outside the
my
scope
heart
of
was in my mouth early this morning until I heard from him. And he's fine.
One interesting note here, Heidi, something that those of you who have been following us throughout the day, we've all been a little bit puzzled about. The plane crash in Pennsylvania.
Yes.
Why in the world would one of these planes have deliberately crashed in Pennsylvania? Well, a Virginia congressman, Representative James Moran, said the intended target of that plane that crashed in Pennsylvania was apparently Camp David, the presidential retreat in Maryland. The crash site is just 85 miles northwest of there. Moran said that after attending a briefing in Washington this morning, so we, I think, can assume that that comes from some pretty high sources right there. It appears as if the presidential retreat might also have been a target of these terrorists.
We heard a report right before we went on the air again about where President Bush is being guarded. Is that right? He was in
Sarasota, Florida, when all this
Right.
began. That's where he got word. They took him to Louisiana after that. And we sort of thought that he was getting on board a plane and was coming back to Washington.
That's what we thought, but instead,
It is
I guess
such a
Air Force
high-level
One.
alert. They've taken him to a military base near Omaha, Nebraska.
And okay, we're going to go now to Mary Murphy, who has a recap for us. Mary, are you there live, or is this on tape? This is on tape.
Here's Mary.
The first plane hit right as the workday began for 50,000 people in the Twin Towers, right before 9 a.m.
There are flames. There is a massive fire here.
Our WB11 cameraman was underneath the skyscrapers 18 minutes later when the second jetliner aimed for a second tower.
I mean, we have a huge hole. We have a lot of dead American people up here, and we need answers.
Some witnesses saw bodies falling out of the towers. Another reported a man and woman holding hands, jumping together from somewhere near the 80th floor.
I was supposed to be on the 82nd floor for a 9 o'clock meeting, and I was about 10 minutes late to get there. And they're telling me now that planes were going through the 82nd floor area. So I guess I was kind of covered by somebody up above.
As the debris rained down, blowing shoes, briefcases, pencils, and other articles from people's desks, the blinding smoke enveloped most of Lower Manhattan's world-famous skyline. Within an hour, the towers were falling down.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
At St. Vincent's Hospital, stretchers lined the streets. Doctors and nurses stood by with IV bottles as ambulance after ambulance arrived, carrying survivors clearly still in shock. Even the city's emergency medical workers themselves among the victims, firefighters and police officers. One couple answered the call for blood donations.
I saw the second tower come down. I saw more than I ever wanted to see in one day.
And it was enough to bring you down here to help. What do you hope to do here?
There's nothing else we can do, but give blood is something we can do, and I hope everybody who can do that will do that.
All right, something else we want you to look at here coming up in a second. First of all, we have just been corrected. The president is apparently now
on his
coming
way
back
to
Washington, D.C. Apparently it's been established that the situation is under control enough to bring him back to the nation's capital. I wanted you to take a look at something else now. This just came to us from CNN. This is amateur video shot by a Dr. Mark Heath as things were happening. Take a look.
Oh, my God.
He just said this perspective is from the West Side Highway.
You guys going in?
Yeah.
Come with you. You know, you might not want to get too much closer because the more buildings could come down, then we're not going to help anybody.
All right.
I think we should. Yeah.
Where's the incident come out?
Just
Oxygen.
yeah. Okay. Let's just wait right here. Let's just station up right here. Okay.
All right, Doctor.
Why don't we set up? Can you hang IVs from this pole here?
Okay.
Okay.
Where'd you get gloves there, buddy?
Yeah. We just heard another explosion. They're handing out gloves and masks. The consensus is it's too unsafe to go in there. Just gonna wait here until they bring some people out.
Just to let you know what you're watching here, I believe, this was just fed to us from CNN, I believe this is amateur video shot by a doctor who, it appears, is setting up a MASH unit. over by the West Side Highway, cautioning the rescue workers not to go any closer into the heart of the financial district because of the threat of additional buildings collapsing. And he is just keeping his videotape rolling while he sets up his medical station there.
A lot of journalism coming out of this, and as the days go on, but right now the big concentration is just saving as many lives as possible, getting as many people out of there as they possibly can.
And that gives you some idea of the destruction, the dust, the smoke, and the debris everywhere in Lower Manhattan, even as far over as the Hudson River.
The other target that was hit today was the Pentagon, and we're going to go there now to Tom Cole, who's standing by for us. He's the Washington Bureau and the Tribune stations. Tom?
Yeah, our situation here in the nation's capital is much less pandemonium than what you folks have been witnessing all day. In fact, the only visible or tangible effects of this morning's attacks on the nation's capital is that smoke billowing out of the head of the military hierarchy here in the nation's capital, the Pentagon. That fire broke out shortly after an explosion that eyewitnesses say was an American Airlines jetliner crashing into the west wing of the military establishment headquarters. Eyewitnesses reported hearing the high whine of an engine before they heard the dull thud of the explosion and then the blast itself. There are a number of dead inside the Pentagon. We are not sure of the numbers. Dozens have been injured. But here is the status as we know in terms of where the military establishment stands and where the government establishment stands. As of a few moments ago, the president was in Omaha, Nebraska at the United States Strategic Command, where he has instant access to all military assets. We are now getting word that the president is getting back on Air Force One and is coming back to Washington, and he's preparing to address the nation tonight, we are being told, from the White House. That is the latest as far as the president is concerned. As far as the vice president, the first lady, the vice president's wife, they are all sequestered in secure locations. As far as the governmental apparatus, the Congress, the leadership of the Congress, especially those members who are in the order of succession, the Speaker of the House, the Senate President Pro Tem, they are all in secure locations kept away from the Capitol. The rank and file members have also been put in a secure bunker somewhere out of the city. In effect, the government is operating, just not in the places we are normally used to seeing them operate. As far as the rest of the city is concerned, the District of Columbia mayor has declared a state of emergency for the nation's capital, which in essence means that the entire city is shut down, essential personnel only allowed into the city. We're not clear how long that state of emergency is going to last. But I can tell you, every single federal building, every single monument, locked down, secure, armed guards around everything. There's nobody going in. There are no vehicle traffic going into any of the federal facilities, and there's no pedestrian traffic either. About the only problem that the situation the district is facing right now is the gridlock of everybody trying to get out of the city. Live from Washington, Tom Cole, WB11 News.
Tom, thank you. Back here in New York, we are reports now that 2 more buildings at the World Trade Center complex are burning now and in danger of collapsing. 2 more buildings. The fires are said to be in buildings 7 and 5. This morning, it was towers 1 and 2 that were hit by the airplanes and that collapsed. There are now fears of more fire and a possible collapse in buildings 7 and 5.
Right, something some people might not know. The World Trade Center is actually a complex of a total of 7 buildings, of which the 2 most prominent were the 2 towers. There are others, 2 of them now on fire. And you can see, once again, we've kind of been judging. The only way we have of judging all day is whether or not active fires are still burning. And that is if the thick black smoke is coming back up. After a short while ago, you saw from Larry Hoff's vantage point that smoke seemed to be clearing, and now it seems to be increasing. Once again, fires still burning in the World Trade Center complex.
Mary Murphy is with us right now, and Mary, you understand you have...
We've been monitoring all the tape from the eyewitnesses coming in. We have a lot of brave cameramen out there, and I just saw some tape that came in from a Michael Benfonte. He's a sales manager who worked in Tower 1 for the World Trade Center, and he was on the 81st floor of the building, and he thinks the explosion was on the 88th floor. He was trying to get down a stairwell, and he told us that he actually strapped a woman who was in a wheelchair onto some makeshift gurney to get her down, and right when they got down, the building exploded again. A very emotional man who managed to get up on West Street North and get to some fire vehicles, and he told us what happened, what it was like down there at Ground Zero.
The whole Marriott is caved in, and there's dust and debris all over the place. And I was thinking of going back to try and find people from my office, but it was chaos. So John's like, "Let's go." I start to leave, and I see people jumping at the top of the World Trade Center. And then I'm walking out, and some reporter's interviewing me. And I'm standing next to John, and when the top of the thing blew up, and it just exploded and started coming down. I was running for my life, and me, the fireman, John, we were just taking off, man. And this shit was falling down behind us. It was coming up behind us. And I just saw this truck, and I knew it was right behind me, and I just slid underneath it. And I thought it was John behind me, and it was a fireman. And we stayed down there, and everything just went black. Shit was coming down all over us. This last explosion. And everybody's screaming for help, and I'm just underneath there, and I'm tired and breathing in a lot of smoke, just black, and it's just pitch black. I mean, you couldn't see a thing, and it took like a couple of minutes, at least 5 minutes, to subside, and then all of a sudden it started subsiding, and the fireman was on my back, and he's like, "You're all right, just stay down." And
that was Michael Benfonte, a sales manager who works on the 81st floor of the Twin Towers, the one-time Twin Towers now, and he managed to get north on West Street and get to some emergency help. He was covered in soot. I saw his shoes, his whole outfit, his suit was covered. He had a friend with him that he kept referring to. The two of them got out together. He said he doesn't know what happened to the woman in the wheelchair, that he got down to the bottom floor because the second explosion came right away, and if you didn't move out fast enough, you don't know if you got buried in any debris. He doesn't know also what happened to a cameraman who was interviewing him right at that moment that the second explosion, the second plane hit.
That is what is so devastating, and I think we're going to find is so devastating that's going to add to the loss of life and injuries, is that it's a, you know what it is? It's a virtual situation, as terrorists often do. The cruelest terrorist trick is to explode one bomb, have all the emergency personnel and people rush to the aid of those who have been hurt, and then explode another bomb.
Well, there was a man
in
there
a
from
way,
the
this is
Hatsala.
the same type of situation, except it was one plane hitting one tower. People rushed to the site, including, you're mentioning cameramen, journalists, emergency personnel, firemen, and then the second plane came in and hit the second tower.
And there was an emergency worker there from Hatsala, the Jewish ambulance service that's primarily based in Brooklyn and Manhattan, and he said, now you know what they go through in Israel. Because that's what happens. You'll have one bomb go off, say, in a pizza parlor, and then as the emergency workers get there, another bomb's going off in a train station.
And like I said, it is the cruelest way of doing it, because it's a way of gathering even more innocent victims.
Mary and Jim, I have another update for you right now. It just was handed to me. 7 World Trade Center, which is located on Betsy Street. It's a 60-story building. Firefighters on the scene say that building is right now severely leaning towards the south. And officials believe the sustained severe damage when tower number 1 went down is causing this. They have cleared the surrounding blocks, and as we can see from the live shot here, as you can see, the smoke is getting darker, which is an indication that the fire is returning. This is a picture of
Air Force One returning to Washington. I know that at times like this, whoever occupies the White House sees it as a very important part of their symbolic role as leader of the country to be there. And I'm sure when the president and his advisors got word that the all clear had been issued in Washington, that they came back. He's basically been all around the country today. He's been to Florida, where he heard about it, Louisiana. I assume he made it all the way to Omaha, to a strategic center out there, and now is back in Washington, where it's believed he will be addressing the nation on television tonight.
And apparently he has been in constant touch with Colin Powell and with Dick Cheney, even. Right now, we've told that 7 World Trade building is being evacuated. I said earlier that it is leaning